right. Welcome to the Blind Ambition podcast. And today our special guest is Amit. Is that how you pronounce Amit or what's the right way of saying your name?
You,
Just so
you
everyone
know
knows.
it. A meat, yeah. Perfect.
Can you share a little bit about your company, what you're doing, and give some color and context about your startup?
Yes, I'm Amit Bendov, co-founder and CEO of Gong.io. Gong is a 1,200 person company. We're an AI technology company that focuses on revenue teams. Um, we help companies improve their sales efficiency with AI and make better decisions. Like, how does it all work? Companies today rely on information that people are putting in their CRM system. So, for example, a salesperson might be in a conversation with a customer over phone or video or in person, and then they go in and put a bunch of notes. 99% of that information never makes its way into the CRM because it requires work. People hate it. And even that, what does end up is like very subjective because it's very easy to misinterpret or mishear things, right? What Gong does instead, it taps into all the customer conversation across all channels, email, telephone, video, like we're doing right now,
Mhm.
texting, uses AI to understand what's being said on those conversations and turns into the data that the company understand why they're winning deals, why they're losing customers, why some people are more successful than others, what do people think about their products. So it's pretty incredible. They get 100 times more information than traditional CRMs without anybody having to lift a finger.
Is this done through a SaaS product or something else?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a SaaS. There's nothing to install. You turn it on and sit back and enjoy the show.
So it sounds
Uh,
like, in part, what you're saying is that you get all this information, you get a fire hose of information just flowing out all over the place. And that in a way, you're able to funnel and find the appropriate information about your customers, about big wins, about maybe lost a customer, whatever the case may be, and to have it readily available using AI. Is that sort of?
yeah, you have obviously objective and complete data, but you don't drink from the fire hose.
Mhm.
Actually, the system itself takes all the information, ingests it, digests it, and prepares it in like three different ways. First, it tells you how you can improve sales efficiency, the skills of your people. They're not pitching their product, or they're talking too much, or their follow-up could be a little faster. So it observes the skill of the people and help you up-level the game. Second, it engages customers on its own. So with a product called Engage, the system actually will draft emails for you and reach out to customers in an optimal way to get them to respond and come back to you. And the third is a forecasting product that actually predicts how likely is a customer to buy based on what the customer is saying. So traditionally, companies have been relying on the sentiment of the sales team. How much, let's say we're going to do like 10 million this quarter because like A, B, and C and D, right? Here's what they told me. Gong looks objectively at the data and says, we think it's going to be 9.7. And here's why.
And,
That's pretty amazing.
and now, when you're talking about customers, like what's your core demographics? What's your audience?
So we
Your
have,
clients?
good question. So we have about 4,000 customers.
Mhm.
Some of them are small companies, and some of the largest companies in the world with like thousands of people are on the system. Most of our customers today are in North America and about 15% in Europe.
And so let's say I would subscribe, like I'll subscribe to this system. What would I expect? Is this a better way to manage my clients and find out what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, how to do better, how to keep, a customer, how to not to lose a customer? Is that sort of the things?
Yeah. So as soon as you subscribe to the system starts capturing all your customer interactions.
Mm-hmm.
So all your customer, it connects to your CRM system, but also to your email, your phone system, and your Zoom videos or Teams, whatever you're using. And it starts capturing everything. So like on day one, now you have all the customer communications in one place. Now the system starts to look at what's going on, and tomorrow morning when you log in the system, it says like, hey Jack, you had a call with Amit, like here's a draft email for you, right? It'll prepare for you, and they also need to follow up on this account that they haven't spoken with in a couple of weeks. So they'll start running recommendations for you how to engage customers. It'll give you feedback on every interactions. For example, like from this current conversation, like here are the action items, here's the follow-up. Actually, it was pretty good, but here's a question that you should have asked, right, or could have asked to get a better outcome. And you could also ask Gong. You could just like you do with ChatGPT, like, hey, I'm working on this account right now. What do you think are the risks that I should be expecting, and what's the best way to mitigate them? So Gong will tell you what the risks are, and will create a plan for you to increase your likelihood of winning the account.
So what made you decide to build this company? What was like, what happened was this building on other companies that you had, or just you had this lightning bolt?
Yeah, I was prior to starting Gong, I was a CEO of another company, and I experienced a quarter from hell. Right, we're growing pretty fast, but all of a sudden we had a quarter where nothing worked. Like sales started tanking. I had no idea what was going on. I started interviewing my people, right, asking what's going on, and everybody was pointing finger at something else. The sales were blaming the marketing was blaming the salespeople, like they all were blaming the product, and I had no idea, right? And I looked into, in my desperation, I started to try to get data from our CRM system and realized that there's not much there. Right. So, and everything kind of like seemed okay. We had like enough people. We should have been able to hit the number. So it dawned on me that the key to success is not how many calls people are making or how many leads they have. Yeah, that's important, like to a degree, but it's the question they're asking. What is actually happening in those conversations, right? What do customers think about us? Is our messaging resonate? What do they like about our competition? These are the fundamental questions that every business needs to understand. And the information doesn't exist anywhere. So it dawned on me that the problem is that we rely on people to do all of that work. They hate it. There's not much in it for them. They do it for their bosses. And that was 2015, where you might remember AI just beat the world champion in chess. And it was starting to diagnose cancer better than doctors. So I asked myself, how hard would it be for AI to capture customer information better than salespeople or customer support people? That was the premise for Gong. Like AI seemed like a stupid idea back then. But I imagine a world where people do not fill in forms ever again, and the company just knows everything, and the system does work on its own. It's an autonomous application, and that was it. That was the idea.
And it makes so much sense, coming from the outside, is because for the last 20 plus years, I ran a executive search firm, and it's sales. You're trying to sell the company to get their business. You're trying to sell the candidate to take the job and all that. And I just can speak to my own experience. Salespeople, whether you're a recruiter or whatever kind of salesperson, we suck at taking notes and keeping track of things and being organized, because we just want to close that deal. We want to get it done. So that, to your point where you're talking about, then maybe you put something in a CRM, maybe most likely you don't put anything in there. And this way, and then the company and the executives have no idea is like what's working, what's not working, because there's no like real data to build it off. So I guess you're trying to then take that out of the equation, say, all right, we have to have a better way so we know what the heck is going on here. And then I really like how you were talking about marketing and advertising, because it's almost a cliche at this point, right? Where the marketing people are saying, hey, we're doing great, but the salespeople, they suck. They're not doing anything. And the salespeople say, hey, we would be good, but your marketing is terrible. Oh, and by the way, the product is horrible. So it's like everyone's
Right.
arguing and nothing gets done because everyone's pointing their fingers at each other, right? So this is a way to kind of, all right, we just can't rely on Jack, his head of marketing, and he's right, or Caroline is wrong, or Joe is this. It's like, all right, let's get the data. Let's see what we're doing. Let's put it all together. Let's use AI so there's no finger pointing, and now we can really understand how to run this business correctly. Is that kind of how
That
it plays out?
that's exactly,
Yeah.
without Gong or something like Gong, you're relying on people's opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows, right? That's the truth. Nobody knows, right? And here you have the data, the
Right.
information to like inform decision in a way that's like 100 times better than traditional systems.
And so you said you had what, 1,200 people, something like that?
Yes.
So how was it scaling up? I mean, that's a lot, that's a fair amount of people. Um,
Yeah.
so how did you do this? Like when you left the firm, did you start thinking and speaking to your spouse or kids or what have you and say, hey, all right, I have a really good job, I'm doing really well, but you know what? Heck with it. I'm gonna do this startup and take a shot. Were they behind it? And then what was it like to just start building it from scratch?
That was the actual conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is kind of my fourth company
Mm-hmm.
that I'm leading. And definitely it's a very demanding job, especially with my commute, which is like from Tel Aviv to the US. So it's a lot of travel and being away. So the four of us, my wife and I, and our two boys, we're having a convo. It's like, dad has this hobby, right? That he likes creating companies. What do you think? And
Yeah.
everyone is very supportive, which I appreciate and don't take for granted. But yeah, it is hard work, and I know you're in a people business. I will say it's not just a cliche. Like it is the most important thing in the company, right? It's the team, right, before anything else, right? That's um, assuming you're in a good market, right? But putting that aside, the team is the most important thing.
So as a serial entrepreneur, a lot of people are, interested in pursuing, especially people on blind, say, hey, I would love to do this. What can you share with them to say, hey, I have an idea. I'm maybe a software engineer, I'm a software developer, and I have a bunch of other friends who are doing product managers and so forth, want to do something. Now you've done this 4 times at least. What would you suggest to people? Would you say, you know what? Don't bother. This is too much aggravation, too much headaches, or here's what you need to do to just get this started?
First, I want to be humble. I don't want to like advise
Yeah, don't
like
be humble. That's all right. You don't have
anyone,
to.
right? But some people like, Mark Zuckerberg did like at 22, right? I did like a lot later. I worked at the company. I had like real jobs. So I was like a early stage, but I was on payroll. I wasn't like the founder of the company, right?
Mhm.
So, and I've learned a lot over the time. I've got the skills, the knowledge, the experience that help me today be successful in what I do. So what I my advice to people usually don't go and start a company because you want to be an entrepreneur. That's the wrong. I see people that they see that we work like all day. They're looking for ideas, maybe this idea, maybe that idea, maybe that idea. And then it's, oh, it's idea 4. That's a good one. Now I'm going to get going, right? That's not a great way to start. Start a company when there's something like you have like a burning desire to fix a problem that you understand pretty well. That at Gong, I told you how I experienced like firsthand. I knew that like there are at least like a dozen people like me that who would be interested in that, right? And I knew exactly what I'm trying to solve and how does it work. That's why it was successful. If I would start something in crypto, which I know nothing about, odds are it wouldn't be successful. So some people just love the entrepreneur scene,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or want to be CEO. It's not the pure fun job. Like I enjoy my work, but it's hard, and there's stuff that I enjoy and there's stuff that I don't, like every day.
So the one of the first steps is this: don't just kind of sit around in a WeWork and tossing ideas around. Find a problem that you know, and I think it's also like you were saying that you know about. You know, if you don't know about crypto, maybe don't do a crypto project. Find something that you understand and know, so you have like an insider advantage because you know how that sector works and that area works. So find that, and and then make sure it's an important problem. And do you also look at it this way to say how big can it get? Do you have to think in those terms or no?
You have to, you'd better think about it, right?
Yeah.
Because, and again, there's nothing wrong. Sometimes, let's say that, I have a passion for example, it's not real, right? Like for goat cheese, right? And I love and I make my own goat cheese, and I've got like a few goats in my backyard,
Yeah.
and I'm onto something. I think that the world is doing it wrong. There is like a better way to do it, right? And I have this like burning desire to go out and do like a way better goat cheese, right?
Yeah.
That's actually a good start, right? Because now there's something, it's a product, you have conviction that you could do like much better. The question is how big of a market is that? It could be small or it could be large. Like both could be fine, right? But if it's small, don't go and raise like $200 million, right? Because you're never going to make a return. Build it as a scrappy business that, you get to like, $10 million, you can make a nice living, you do what you love, and that's totally, totally fine. The problem starts when people think that they don't look at the market, they build something amazing, and they found actually the market like isn't as large as they have thought, right? Maybe the goat cheese is costing like $100, right? There is a market for that. Some people want to buy that, but not a lot, right? And it costs more to manufacture it, so there are economics that just don't work. So build it as a small there's like a boutique winery that does like 100 bottles a year, and some of them do like 1 million bottles a year, right? Just know what you're trying to build, so you know how to properly set the expectation if you're taking money from investors.
And I take it that you would probably say, how oftentimes, especially when kids graduate from college and you hear that ceremony speech, you know, go after your passion, follow your passion, do what you love.
No,
Is worst, right? That holds to entrepreneurialism as well, right? It's probably the worst advice to tell somebody.
it's a terrible advice. It sounds amazing. Be cerebral about it, right? So you need to, passion is great, but use both like left brain and right brain. Do an
Mhm.
analysis, understand like, is there a market? Go and talk to people. Is anybody else like passionate about it? It's like, and how many people I think, and it's hard to know exactly. Like, it's not that it's like 170,000 people. Like, Gong didn't look as big when we started. It looks bigger today because there are some realizations that we gained down the road, but it was sizable enough, right? That we go and start the business. You need to think about it. So don't just do what you love. I think someone said, do what the world needs, and you're gifted at.
It's almost like a Venn diagram that there's a need, you have those
Right.
skills, you have the ability
Yes.
for it,
Yes.
and then if
Both
also you
mix
have
it up. Yes. Yes. Yes.
then also if you have the passion too. But now you
Right.
looked at the market, and how did you look at? So let's say with Gong, how do you do that? Like, how do you go and look and say how big the market is? Is this a problem that needs to be solved? Do you just speak with other entrepreneurs? Do you like do you get
So first, we really struggled to raise money. Like nobody wanted to invest in us. They didn't think that salespeople would love AI or that the AI would work or that
Hmm.
almost nobody wanted to invest in us. It was a struggle, even though I'm a seasoned entrepreneur, so it should have been a walk in the park, but it wasn't. Fortunately, we were able to raise. But the investors actually asked us to do like 50 validation interviews. So we reached to like a bunch of like strangers in that are potential buyers and asked them, here's what we're looking to build. Tell us what do you think, what concerns you might have. You ask the questions that you're kind of afraid to ask.
Hmm.
What concerns would you have? What would make you not want to buy? Like, just ask the hard questions and they'll tell you, right? How excited are you? Is this like a vitamin or antibiotics or a vaccine, right? How much would you pay, right? And the validation was pretty good. So we got pretty positive feedback. Now, this not being my first rodeo, I know that this is not enough. So if people would have said no, right, then we might have not started a company, right? Because if they give us like everybody, but people said, yeah, that kind of sounds interesting. It doesn't mean that they're going to buy. So that's like, okay, we go in the next phase.
Wait. If you hear sounds interesting, that's not a good tell, right? That's not a good sign. You're like,
It
sounds
is
interesting.
even if they're excited,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it sounds amazing, right? Now let's say that they're very excited. It's
Hmm.
encouraging. It's a positive signal. It's not a definitive signal, right? Because there's a difference between like saying that they like it and actually buying. I've seen it with like a previous company, people like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is amazing. Like they tried and then you go and ask for the order and they just don't buy.
Mm.
Right? So you need to ask the hard questions. Now, when we launched the product, after a few months, we saw that people are actually using it and seemed pretty interested. We went and asked for an order, like everybody, ahead of time. Tell, hey, everybody, sorry, the beta is over, time to pay. And we
Hmm.
asked for like $30,000 to $50,000, which we just made up. We didn't have a price list, but we wanted to see if people are willing to pay, to see enough value that they're willing to pay. And we assumed that most are going to say no, right? We wanted to know what's the gap, right? What else do we need to do to get to a yes? So we wanted like an amount that is not trivial and not too high. If we asked for $1 million, nobody would buy. If we asked for $10, it wouldn't tell us anything because everybody's going to
Mm.
buy, right? So we asked for something that, slightly painful. Um, and we wanted to know what the gaps are. Well, 11 out of the 12 said yes. So that was like I said, oh, that's interesting. So that gave us some initial validation that actually people are willing to pay. That means that they see the value.
How did it feel when after starting several businesses, when you went for this one, people were a little reticent. Did you get a feeling in your stomach like, oh no, is this run over?
It's killing you. It's
Yeah.
killing you. Like it's very deflating because like of course, right, that your baby is amazing, and everyone tell you, oh, it's average, right? Uh, so it's very difficult to hear. And even after that, when we started selling, people like didn't get it, or we didn't explain it, or we're selling to the wrong people. Like people say, oh yeah, call me in 3 months, right? It's like now is not a good time for this, right? It says for what? Not a good time for what, right? It's like, but so it is very difficult, but you need to keep going. And if you have the right thing, eventually, and the right team, you will succeed.
And when you were going after pitching to VCs and wealthy people and all that, were you doing that, or you had other people doing it? How did
I
that?
was doing it. I was doing it.
So that's rough. So you're hearing it firsthand. Sometimes you hear it secondhand. You don't get that punch in the gut, but so you having to deal with no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no.
It is like,
Well,
listen, if you are, especially like in early stages, VCs invest in the founders because they don't know if idea, it's very hard to tell. Like I told, like most people like did not think that Gong will succeed, and they're very smart people. Like I know them, right?
So
So
that's the worst. So smart people who really know and
smart
say
people
who aren't
that
aboard, then you're like, oh
yeah, and
no.
they have lots of reason. I still some of those emails about
Yeah.
and lots of appreciation for the people, but
Mhm.
it's but you need to do it yourself, right? Because if the CEO can sell the dream, like
Mhm.
how could he or she sell it to key hires? How they can sell the customers? So it's part of the deal. They're gauging you. Eventually, they invest in you, right, as a founder, because the idea is hard to tell. Sometimes the different like brilliance and stupidity is like very delicate.
So what was the thing that brought you over the edge that you realized it was a turning point where like, all right, I think this is going to happen. Was there something pivotal that took
Uh,
place?
no, it was just kind of like so we had a rough start, and but things got better and better over time. We didn't have like a pivot where we changed the
Mm.
direction of the company. So as we started rolling out the product, we got some good response for customers, and that allowed us to hire like better people, and success brings more success. Everybody wants to join, and then like people were like chasing us to wanting to invest in the company. It's no longer like an issue.
So is it partly just grinding it out and knowing you're going to get the no's, knowing that you can get pushback, you can get rejects, but carrying forward, being optimistic, being enthusiastic, and keep going and going and going.
Yes,
And if you have a
yes,
good product, like you're saying, like you have a good product, it solves a problem and it could help, make it better for companies and what have you, that eventually people will have that light bulb and say, wait, this is actually a really cool product.
right. And it's important. I will say it's a tough ride. People think it's just joy and
Mm-hmm.
glamour. There's some of that, but it's not. Um, have a great team with you, right? My team helps me a lot. Sometimes I'm having it's almost like a manic depression, right? One supporting the team, the next day they're supporting me, right? It's like, so have like a good team that is a good sounding board that can support you is like super important. And that's part of our success. I mean, I'm talking as a founder, but I have like a great co-founder, as like a great partner, and I have the executive team, and I consult with them both professionally, but also we speak about what's going on all the time, and it's a great support group, and that
Uh,
is the key thing.
I'm glad you just talked about the team. So for people who you have hired, or if you're planning to hire people, what do you look for in a candidate? And I know each, have different jobs, but just generally speaking, what's the thing that when you speak to somebody, you're like, I think this is going to be the person, or you speak to someone right away, no, this is not going to work.
So sometimes there are like a few cases where it says, okay, like this is it. You have like so there are rare cases where you speak to someone 5 minutes and like this is like Mr. or Mrs. Right.
Mhm.
Um, but
Now, what is that? Like, is it,
most
is just a certain quality? Is it just a vibe? Is it just something?
it's a combination.
Yeah.
It's like a combination like smarts, um, the right level of experience, and good personal connection. You see
Mhm.
someone's genuine. I mean, we love genuine people, like down to earth, like straightforward people, no posturing. Other companies might have like different attributes,
Mhm.
right? For us, that's kind of, I dread the term like cultural fit, but you know the people that are you connect with really well, and you know that they're genuine and real and not posturing and trying to sell you something, right? That you could have like a real good relationship with. Um, so that's it. And then there are some roles, right? In some roles, like experience matter more than others, right?
Mhm.
I always like put more weight on smarts, attitude, drive of people, but you want you wouldn't want me to be your dentist with just, attitude, right? You need to know what you're doing. So if you're in finance, you need to know what you're doing, right? So we'll look at the experience, personal traits, and fit with the team.
And are you involved with the process, or at this point in time, you're too far removed, or do you like interviewing people and being in the trenches?
I love interviewing.
Yeah.
Like, so I think up until we're like around 150 to 200, I interviewed like every person in the company.
Mm.
After that, I required like two C levels to sign off, and everything like from a director level, like I interviewed, and I still interviews like some people. Yeah, I like I look at it like two ways. First, people ask, how do you have the time? Like, it's not a good use of your time. I said, this is insane. Like a person is costing you like $200,000 a year, right? And if they're in sales or something, or even like an engineer, they're probably worth like $1 million. Like, it's hard to think like of a better ROI for 30
Mm.
minutes. 30 minutes of your time to reduce the risk of like losing $200,000 and the potential of getting like $1 million. Like, I mean, show me like 1.2 million per 30 minutes. So there is no better ROI. There are a few things. Um, Second, I actually learn a lot. People ask, I learn from interviews.
Mm.
So when I interview someone, I usually ask them first, I'm trying to like gauge them and, understand their true colors. But I also, oh, you worked at that company, right? What was it like, right? Tell me what made you successful. If I know the company was not successful, like what went wrong over there? And people usually will tell you. Now, this is their own version, but over time, if you speak, I have this like database in my mind, right? Where you speak with like 5 people from the same company, you try to get the real picture, right? And I learned like what went well in some of the best companies, what do people like, and what went wrong. Some of the most companies actually don't succeed, so you learn a lot
Mhm.
from those. And I try not to repeat those mistakes. So actually, it's a good education for me.
Now, how do you also pass that down? So after you go to 100, 150 people, as you mentioned, maybe you'll interview this, C-suite level folks, but for your HR team and for recruiters who are getting people for you, how do you make sure you have that same consistency to have those interviews to make sure you're getting the right people?
It is a real challenge. Hopefully, by the time that people saw like what kind of rigor we use, and sometimes it could be like a dozen interviews to hire someone, and the reference checking and the rigor that we go. Hopefully, they use the same level of rigor when they hire people. It's not so about the rigor; it's also about candidate experience. I hate when like the candidate like reaches out and they don't hear from us, like from it could happen, right? But it's a terrible experience. So I want to make sure that we start by thanking them for considering us, by making sure it's a two-way street and it's not just a grilling session, right? And so people follow your example. You need to stay in tune like throughout the time because over time things might drift. And if you're not paying attention, you might find yourself a little too removed from what you had in mind when you started this thing.
Now, do you have any thoughts about using AI for the interview process and the hiring process?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great help. So we've actually used our own product for a little bit. We paused it for now, but we use Gong for our interview process,
Hmm.
which first is a huge time saver for us and the candidates, right? Rather than doing 6 interviews, we could do like 1 or 2, and everybody would just go get the summaries and they can ask questions. Where did she work, or what was like her best accomplishment at that company, right? And so it's a huge time saver, so to cycle, plus allows us to make sure that we're giving like a consistent experience to candidates.
What do you, because I'm seeing a lot of startups that are doing AI interviews, and I'm not sure how I feel about it because you know, you want that human touch, but then it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. So what do you think that's going to be the future in this space for
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, there's no you can still do it, right? Just like you're filling an application form,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Application form has like, asks you like a bunch of questions, right? So some preliminary matching or screening, if you like, right? There's nothing wrong with an AI agent doing the same thing, right? Asking
Yeah.
like 20 questions. It's a little smart. Think of it as a smarter way of the form. Now, you don't think that you're really speaking with a person. Like you said, hey, I'm an AI agent. My goal here is to help you like accelerate the process, and I could do it like right now. You don't need to schedule anything. You could do it today, right? And they might even give you feedback like on the spot. So actually, I think it's beneficial to both parties.
Yeah, that makes sense. It just, you know what? I neglected to ask, why Gong? Like, how, where does that name come from?
Oh, come on. It's the sound of winning. Like, so if you've ever been like
Oh,
the sales floor, right? When
oh, you
people
hit like
win
the
a
bell.
deal,
Like,
yeah.
is
Plus,
that where it's from?
it was cheap. I bought it from an Australian kid for like $1,000. It was affordable. It has like a verb potential. So, oh, I gong this conversation, or make sure you gong this, right? And it's fun. Now, it's also a name that not everybody, when we went in to raise money, people said, oh, people are going to think you're a Chinese company, right? Or like, or, oh, it's a negative, the Gong Show, you've been gone. So
Yeah,
people had
that's what
a,
I think of the Gong Show. Yes.
yes. So, but so, yeah, the kids today don't know what the Gong Show
No,
is.
no, that was a pretty funny show. Yes.
Yeah. So that hence the name.
And now you didn't put on your sunglasses because I see on your on I think it was LinkedIn or I can't
Yeah.
remember which social media, the gong and the sunglasses and all that. There you go. Now, why the sunglasses? What's that? Is there a certain meaning behind that too, or
Looks
no?
like we have no, there's no meaning.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like have fun, a little more playful. Just I think just everybody thinking that you need to be like show up all buttoned up.
Mhm.
But people don't buy from companies, they buy from people. Like at least even a company, they want a little bit of a personality, right?
Mhm.
And there was like we had a photographer and he said like one was kind of the regular like enterprise
Mhm.
photo and one was I told him let's do one with the shades and he says okay but don't use it on the website. I said great, will use it on the website. So it gets people to talk, right?
We got to stand out sometimes, right? Like if you
You
look
got
like
to stand
everybody
out. So
else.
the biggest, when you're
Yeah.
starting company, people think sometimes, they want to create something that's agreeable. They they don't want to talk about the thing. They're afraid that people are going to steal their ideas, right? The biggest risk is that nobody knows about you, that you get like swallowed in the noise. So you need to stand out. And the way to stand out is to be not to do what everybody else or not what everybody agrees. Even if you look at our logo, right? Today is a little more agreeable.
Mhm.
But when we started, we went to a trade show and the design, we didn't even have a designer. We had the person doing the GUI for us, the screens. And I told him like, I want a logo that when people send like 30 yards from the sign, there are going to be lots of vendors out there. I want the logo to stand out. Like, I don't care if people hate it or people love it, but they will not be able to ignore it. Right. And he created this thing that looks like comics, right? And people
Mhm.
said, what the hell is that? That doesn't look like a logo. It says, great, they're talking about it. That's exactly what we want. So get people to talk about it, and something is polarizing or 50%. Like it or not, that's the sweet spot of marketing, and it's free. You could do it, and but you need to find your own angle and your own personality. You need to be genuine.
Yeah, because so many people, you see carbon copies. It's like everyone act like, for instance, on Wall Street, everyone has the vests, the Patagonia vest, and you look like just like everybody else. You don't stand out. but sometimes you need to stand out and get noticed and get the attention because
Right.
otherwise you
In your
just blend in,
startup,
right?
you can't compete on marketing dollars. You need to stand out, right? And actually, it's free. Like you don't need to spend money. You could do like you have the means, you have the distribution, and we live in a perfect time. All you need to do is like feel like bold and creative.
So in addition to the sunglasses and the Gong, any have you for marketing, getting it started, did you do other interesting, just I don't want to say over the top, but really compelling stuff to get attention, to get noticed?
Yeah. So first, we try to use customers as marketing. It's
Mhm.
not it's kind of like old fashioned, but we love to think of, we admire companies like Tesla and Apple that
Mhm.
are like strong product companies that create like amazing technology that have a cult following of leaders. So that's been working for us. Most enterprise products, I mean, they're plenty good ones, but people don't rave about them. They're okay. They work. They're very profitable, but people don't rave about them. So Gong, we try to create something that amazes people, and that they talk about it, and that's
Mhm.
been working for us. But yeah, we experiment with quite a bit, with a bulldog on a website. Like at some point, I think it's still there, like in the chatbot. We did a Super Bowl ad, which is like unheard of for a company our size when we're like a lot smaller. So, uh,
Did you? Well, I didn't realize. So you had
oh
you were in the
yeah,
Super. Oh
yeah,
wow!
yeah.
All right.
We
It's
spent a good amount of money on that. Yeah.
so did the VCs and the other investors like give you grief about that? Like, what are you doing?
No, 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 they're very supportive. We,
Yeah,
we were pretty realistic that, but that was kind of like in the COVID days. So we got a good deal. Actually, it wasn't like all that expensive,
yeah.
but again, we thought, let's find out. Like maybe it's not
It's,
all that expensive. So we got a good COVID deal. It wasn't like it was virtual. We just did it in
yeah.
a few markets, and actually wasn't like a huge investment.
So
Wasn't like a huge reward either,
yeah.
but it was fun.
So moving forward, like where do you see this going? Like what's the potential? Do you have any numbers that in your mind you're like, oh, I would love to hit this, X amount of billions. Like, do you think in those terms, or that you freak yourself out if you
No, I
start
mean,
thinking?
obviously, we have the potential to be like a multi-billion-dollar company in actual revenue. It's a huge market, but what we think about is in terms like what AI means for the workplace, right?
Mhm.
And that's our passion. We believe that there's a massive tidal wave that is coming, right? It's bigger than cloud, it's bigger than mobile, bigger than anything we've experienced. It's bigger than the industrial revolution, it's bigger than the agricultural revolution, because this is the first time. What made us successful so
Mhm.
far is our brains as humans, right? And this is the first time that we're learned to manufacture thoughts and ideas and solutions. So, which is a lot more powerful than manufacturing goods. So for us, being at the epicenter of that
Mhm.
is pretty exciting, and we see like a huge opportunity to transform first the revenue organization, both like in sales and post sales, but also beyond that in many other areas.
That's cool. And is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you feel you'd like to share about, yourself, Gong, the business, entrepreneurs, anything else maybe that I didn't bring up that you feel will be really helpful for the audience?
Um, I don't know. I mean, there's plenty that we
Cover a
go
lot of ground.
on, but um, nothing comes to mind, but feel free, like ask me anything.
Sure, sure. So like for the right now, like is you're a unicorn, like how would you put yourself at where you stand in terms of the
Oh,
company
I
at this
hate
point?
that. I hate that term.
Do
Like, yeah,
you? All
we
right.
we're a
Uh,
unicorn. First, like there are a lot of companies who are like over $1 billion valuation, and second, like even like in 2021, I said we shouldn't drink our own Kool-Aid, and we were not measuring ourselves by Evaluations, we measure by the number of happy customers, by our revenue, by real financials. That's the real thing. So the whole thing is just a distraction. You shouldn't focus. The share price follows the real business. Like if you have something that's real.
Do you feel almost as like a jinx if you go around, oh, I'm a unicorn company, it's a billion plus? And you just rather focus
Yes,
on the
yes.
clients and that's it, and customers, and not.
Just focus on the
Yeah.
real thing. Like the moment you think you've made it, like you're done. So just have like always like keep head in the clouds, but feet on the ground and do the real thing. Just build like a good old business that gets real customers that are willing to pay what will ultimately make you profitable and generate cash. There's no new economy or a new thing, or this is the only thing that withstands the test of time.
I love it. This is a good way to kind of, wrap it up, because so often, not only business, but in life too, right? People, or even if you're not an entrepreneur, you're working for a company, sometimes it gets to your head and you think you're way better than you are, and then you forget the details and you forget what got you there, and then all of a sudden
Right.
it
Right.
falls apart. So you have to have that combination of humility, like you were saying. I don't know if you use those words, but like the humility, but still have that that
A little bit reality distortion is healthy,
yeah,
right? Because
right,
you're doing stuff that maybe you shouldn't be
right,
thinking that you should be able to do, but you need to be grounded as well.
right. You can't completely say, oh, I'm gonna do this, just like crazy
It's a
ideas.
delicate balance. It's a delicate balance.
Right, but you want to think really big, but at the same
Yeah,
time you want to be like, okay, how can I achieve this and be reasonable and logical about it? Well, this is
100%.
great. Well, this is great. Any new products in the pipeline that be coming up? Anything new, or you
Yes,
just
we
yeah?
will be announcing them in June, but definitely new products that are coming out.
All right,
Very, very
cool.
excited.
So we could stay in touch and keep us informed, like how what new stuff comes in, and this is great. And I'm really glad you took the time out, because especially on the not only with the blind platform, but just also because we post this to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the all the social media platforms, and there's just always such an interest in entrepreneurialism. How do you build a business, or how do you just go and work for one, and what it's like? So I think a lot of people are so interested in this area. So I'm glad you were able to
Wait, I'm
walk.
gonna be on TikTok?
What?
I'm
If
gonna
you
be
want.
that's amazing. I'm gonna send it to my mom.
So this way, like this, it's so cool, because this way you were able to walk through, without any jargon. And I give you respect for that, because a lot of times you speak to people, it's all jargon, buzzwords, corporate words.
Yeah,
Here you're just like a regular, normal human being walking through. Here's what to do. Here's how it works. Here's what's good about it. Here's what's bad about it. And you're very, you offer color and context, instead of just saying, "Hey, I built this thing, and here's what I did." And
yeah.
you're very, down to earth, and I think that makes it more, for people who are interested, it's more attractive to them, because they realize, wait, this guy seems like a regular guy and he's doing it.
I'm a regular guy. Yeah.
Maybe I could do that too. And that's great. So I really appreciate you taking the time today to share with the audience all about Gong, and good luck with it. Sounds fantastic.